We're going to skate to one song only.
Greetings. Welcome to another message on behalf of Torchlight Ministries. My name is Brother Minister Michael Muhammad. For those of you who have ventured to click our video to see what it's all about. And greetings to those of you who are returning again to hear this message and have visited us before. We welcome you and we pray that what we offer to you today, as God has put it in our heart and mind, will serve your time well, giving us your attention. We begin this message in the name of the one God, the Creator God, the author God, the designer, architect, engineer God, the source of all life. That source that has blessed us to come into time, to have time, and determine how we will use the time in which we live. We must acknowledge the oneness of the Creator. And although we sometimes have tremendous disagreement and argument, sometimes men go to war over whether or not their God is God. Sometimes there's hatred and hostility because I call God by a name you know not. You call God by a name I know not. And all of this is ignorance because God is the Creator. And the principle of creation has shown us that God is not monolithic, God is not black or white. God produces life with the principle of creation, and therefore we see in the universe many stars, many planets, many nebulae, many objects, many phenomena that manifest out of and in his creation. We see that there are many planets, all having their own unique form and style of life. And likewise on our planet, we see that there's not one type of flower, not one type of insect, not one type of life in the sea, not one type of seed, not one type of tree, not one type of anything. God brought forth life and continues to bring forth life using the principle of creativity. And it is out of that principle that man, the image, the likeness, the replica, if you will, of the originator, has the ability to form many languages, thousands of languages on the planet, and even more thousands of dialects of those languages. But wherever we find, in particular, the human being, the original man, we find that those people, wherever they are seeking to understand creation. They are seeking to know the Creator. And this seeking, this longing to know, this inclination to worship, to praise, to commune with the source creates many manner of worship, many manner of praise, many manners of prayer, many forms of devotion, seeking relationship with the source of creation. And so it is so foolish of us to argue with one another, to diminish one another, to fight with one another, to disqualify one another because we have a name for God that you don't know about, that you don't understand, and you have a name for God that I never heard, I never thought about, I never read about, I never studied about, and therefore if I don't have a context for the language and name you use to reach God, I dismiss you as invalid. How devilish that is for us to not understand that God, the Creator God, is called by many names. He's worshiped in many ways. And those that love him have cultivated many forms of devotion. And so we always acknowledge the oneness of God. God is one. His creation is one, even though we made in his image and likeness, frequently are divided while claiming we worship him. I want to begin by giving you the greeting words of peace. Peace in the ancient languages of the prophets, the Hebrew language, we would say shalom aleichem. the Aramaic and the Arabic language, we would say Assalamu alaikum. It is actually a prayer, a brief, powerful prayer that we wish peace on one another. Because you can have money and not have peace. You can have education and not have peace. You can be surrounded by loved ones and not have peace. You can be whatever that thing that you pursue, and you can achieve that thing and still not have peace. And so we wish peace, peace unto you. Peace be with you as we begin our message today. Pardon me. And so our message to share with you today is titled Black in Babylon. Black in Babylon. Now, this may sound like an odd title to our message, and it may be, but I hope that you will give me just a few minutes and hear what we have to say for your edification. We will begin our message as we walk through several scriptures to try to serve as the foundation of what we have to say to you in this brief talk. I want to begin with the prophet Ezekiel, where in Ezekiel it is written in the 2nd chapter of Ezekiel, where Ezekiel says, he said unto me, Son of man, stand upon your feet, and I will speak to you. And the Spirit, Ezekiel talking, entered into me when he spoke unto me and set me up on my feet, that I heard him that spoke to me. And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that hath rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me, even unto this very day. For they are impudent children and stiff-hearted. I do send thee unto them, and you shall say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God. And they, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house, ye shall know that there has been a prophet among them. And thou, son of man, be not afraid of them, neither be afraid of their words, though they have briars and thorns that are with them. And thou dost dwell among scorpions. Be not afraid of their words, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they may be a rebellious house. And you shall speak my words unto them, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are most rebellious. But you, Son of man, hear what I say unto you. Be not you rebellious like the rebellious house. Open thy mouth and eat what I give thee. And when I looked, behold, a hand was set upon me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without, and there was written therein lamentations, mourning, and woe. A man is being sent to a rebellious people by God. A people who don't hear, a people who don't listen, a people who have no consideration for what God would have them to do. Do you know a people like that? Do you know a people who reject the way, the wisdom of God. A rebellious house that when you encourage them to do good, it empowers them to rebel and reject the good that you offer. Do you know a people like that are determined to reject the call of God, but are in love with the ways of Satan himself? God is raising a man. God has raised men to speak to such a people. We are in a rebellious house, and we, black people in America, we become like the people whose hand we labor under, a rebellious people, black in Babylon. And so our title was triggered or inspired by hearing a song. A song made by two of our great artists, business brothers named Kanye and Jay-Z. A few years ago, they had a successful song or record titled Niggas in Paris. Think over that. Niggas in Paris. I don't know if you remember the song. But the song had these lyrics by Kanye and Brother Jay. We're going to skate to one song and one song only. Ball so hard, MFers want to find me. So I ball so hard, MFers want to find me. But first, niggas gotta find me. What's 50 grand to an MFer like me? Can you please remind me? Ball so hard, this shit crazy. Y'all don't know that it don't faze me. The Nets could go 0 for 82. And I look at you like this it gravy. Ball so hard, this it is weird. We ain't even supposed to be here. Ball so hard. But since we here, it's only right that we be fair. Psycho, I'm liable to go Michael. Take your pick, Jackson, Jordan, Tyson, game 6, ball so hard. Got a broke clock, rollies that don't tick-tock. Audemars that's losing time, hitting behind all these big rocks. Ball so hard, I'm shocked too. I'm supposed to be locked up too. You said, look, you need to crawl before you ball. Come meet me in the bathroom stall and show me why you deserve to have it all. Ain't it, Jay? Don't let me get in my zone. Well, the song goes on. I'm sure many of you remember the song. But when I heard the song, it struck me again that we are in fact black in Babylon. And while the song is titled Niggas in Paris, we never could think about why is the song titled Niggas in Paris. And what struck me to listen to the song again was my perusal, if you will, of social media platform, where I've noticed, because it is so-called vacation season, so many black people with a few dollars or a lot of dollars, are so in love with traveling, not to the source of their own ancestry and history, but to Paris, France, to the Eiffel Tower, and seeing that we relish in the ability to go to this European destination as a symbol of success, as a symbol that we have arrived. But we have no interest in tracing the journey of our elders and our ancestors over the waters of the Atlantic, back to the shores of one or another country on the continent of Africa. We have no emotional, psychic connection to experience what they experienced, that we are present today in this land, this house called America, ruled by a rebellious people. So Jay-Z and Kanye offered us an anthem for the celebration of foreign culture, the hedonism, the debauchery, the gluttony, the extravagance, if you will, the celebration of abundance, of wealth that European culture has offered to us, her slave, her former chattel property. And so we celebrate our ability to emulate, imitate, or replicate the culture of the people who have proven for more than 400 years that they have no love for us, except that they benefit from our gift, our talent, our art, and our culture. We are before the world like fools that we're happy to be niggers in Paris. Bear with me. Listening to the song, it was so obvious to me that here we have two music artists celebrating being in Paris, but they are the biggest examples of the slave-master relationship, which is the very structure and paradigm of the music industry, the battle for control of masters so that one would not be a slave. And so Kanye and Jay-Z, having mastered that aspects of that industry, are saying to the former slave master, we're here. We're here. We have arrived, and we're letting you know that we are able to empower ourselves. We're able to stand and go where you did not want us to stand, or you did not want us to go. But the meaning in the song is only available to those who are spiritually awakened. And unfortunately, most of us are put to sleep by the unspoken meaning of the lyrics of the song. And so we fall into the worship of European and Eurocentric culture. And so we're happy to brighten our skin. We're happy to blonde our hair. We're happy to lighten our eye color. Even though it's 2023, 2024, we still are caught in this rejection of our own beauty and the aspiration to have some form of beauty that is set according to a Eurocentric standard. So many of our women, when they arrive at a status in their education or their career or business pursuit, they blonde their hair as a status. And so as great as Mary J. Blige is, as great as Keisha Cole is, as great as some of our women artists are, they hold the blonding of their hair as a status symbol. As a symbol of beauty, their own blackness is never good enough. And so the song Niggas in Paris reminds me that we're still in love with our enemy and the enemy of God. To celebrate Paris, so many of us taking our nickels and dimes and dollars, flying to Paris. Paris, France. France, the bastion of fashion, the bastion of hedonism, the center of freakishness, the facade of superiority of France and the European nations. France, a Christian nation, is another form, another replica of ancient Babylon in the scripture. What do we know of France that we would go there just to dine or peruse a cafe near the Eiffel Tower or shop the designer shops in France? While we are walking the streets of gay Paris, we turn a blind eye to the Black people there who have migrated there from countries that France has decimated with her military and her history of colonialism, and stripped them of their desire to know their own language. And so now the tens of thousands, millions of Black people from some country on the continent of Africa speak primarily French, and so they migrate to France to get away from warfare and death that France has triggered and stimulated or caused to happen in their native land. They're in France, all around the Eiffel Tower, begging for money, hustling trinkets for a few dollars to put a meal on their stomach, while France is trying to keep them out of the spotlight from diminishing the image of Paris as the place to travel for the bourgeois and the elite. What do we know of France and her real treatment of Black people? She only embraced the Black people from America who were either successful or those who helped to liberate her from the clutches of Nazi Germany in World War II. And so she accepted some of our artists, some of our entertainers, some of our intellectuals into the society of France, because it was Black soldiers marching through those streets that helped to free the French from Hitler. And so she embraced some of them, or some of us, because we waved the American flag. But what is the real history of France? Look at Haiti, right here in the Western Hemisphere. France, a Roman Catholic Christian nation, How does she treat black people who are migrants or immigrants to France in response to France's global policies toward black people? France, it is said, has over 400,000 black people from somewhere on the planet, particularly somewhere on the continent of Africa, that has migrated to France. But how does she treat these people? It is said that probably more than 100 migrants are stealing their way into France every day. Paris, the city of lights. What does she hide in the dark? The dream of so many black people to go to France as tourists, and the dream of so many more to seek asylum in France, to take the risk of crossing the English Channel, where many of our people died in the rough waters of the English Channel, trying to reach Britain, trying to reach France. And sometimes almost 200,000 migrants are in that water trying to get to Italy, trying to get to Paris, trying to get to France. So many have lost their lives, and they're right there in Paris. Do we visit? Do we visit the immigrants who look like us, who are from the lands that we were stolen from and forced to come here to America, oh, so many days ago? Do we even go and look in on our people with our money? Do we use our passports to connect to our people? Or are we happy in the shops of Louis Vuitton and the other so-called expensive high-end designers? What kind of people are we that we're happy to be niggas in Paris? When France, a Roman Catholic Christian nation, was one of the leaders in the slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade. She brought tens of thousands of our ancestors to the Western shores, particularly to Haiti, where France imported over 1 million black people to work as servant slaves to make France wealthy. During the 1500s, the 1600s, the 1700s, so much so that by the closing years of the 1700s, black people represented were a population that was 10 to 1 compared to the number of French in Haiti. But those black people, whose population swelled to over 800,000 by the late 1700s, or during the 1700s, the 16th and the 1700s, they worked our people so hard in Haiti that during the course of 20 years, the population of black people, from being worked to death, fell from over 800,000 black people to less than 33,000 in just 20 or so years. The French worked our people to death. And it was the wealth produced by slave labor that made France wealthy, that allowed her to establish her wealth in the modern era. At one time, Haiti was wealthier. It was considered the wealthiest piece of land on earth, and the wealth generated by Haiti allowed France or allowed Haiti to be calculated as wealthier than all of the Spanish Empire. Haiti was at one time considered the wealthiest piece of land on earth because of the wealth that was coming up out of Haiti from slave labor. Now, today, Haiti is considered the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. And so when Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture and the others, Boukman and these revolutionary black people, got tired and overthrew the rule of Haiti. Pardon me, of France. France, the French, the great Roman Catholic Christians, they claim to have been and to be working our people so hard, working them literally to death. When black people broke their rule over them, they continue their devilishment by forcing Haiti, even in her independence, to pay reparations to the French. And not only did they have to pay reparations to the French, but the reparations were drawn, the money was borrowed to start the reparation payment from French banks. Think over that. You got to pay me reparation for my torture and murder and killing of you. And for you making me wealthy, you've got to pay me if you want to stop helping me maintain my wealth. But not only do you have to pay me, you have to borrow the money from me. And I get to set the terms of your repayment. So, was I really successful in freeing myself of your oppression? And now today, the United States of America has taken over for the French, where the French or the Haitian currency is controlled by one or two banks, U.S. banks, that control the economy, the currency, and the economy of Haiti. Niggas in Paris. Do you know that the French have invaded invaded Africa over 50 times in the last 400 years? Do you know that France still controls the politics, the economy, and most of the life of over 17 African nations who have to grovel on their knees at the foot of France? And even though these nations are the militant leaders, the younger leaders of these French nations are trying to break away from France, France continues to collaborate with her European brothers and the United States of America to keep black people under their grip and under their foot on the continent of Africa. But we're happy to travel to Gay Paris. Niggas in Paris. France, Roman Catholic. Yes, the Romans brought Christianity to France, and they used Christianity to bring order, and a world order that included France. Rome, a slave-making culture, was able to create, to structure, to implement a form of religion in the name of Jesus of Nazareth, to galvanize, to control, to subjugate first her own European brothers and create an empire and use that empire to oppress dark people all over the planet. Rome and France, two modern manifestations of an ancient culture we know as Babylon. Well, during the day of Jesus, when Jesus was on the planet of 2,000 years ago, Jesus of 2,000 years ago was on the planet. What relationship did Rome have with Jesus and his people? That relationship was an extension of the relationship that Babylon had with Judah, with that land we call Judea or Palestine in particular. It was the Babylonian people under the usurper king Nebuchadnezzar, who began to sack Jewish power in Palestine and all of that area, where they and the Assyrians subjugated the 12 tribes, the so-called 12 tribes of Israel. And so Judah was defeated by ancient Babylon around 600 BC. And it was at that time, or shortly after that time, that the usurper, barbaric, savage king and ruler of the Babylonian Empire, Nebuchadnezzar, started taking the elite Jews and forcing them to leave Judah and come to the capital of Babylonia to serve the king. And so we have that picture of Daniel, who we know as Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, being there with their people, where their people were being forced to eat the king's meat. And these little Hebrew brothers, they refused to eat the king's meat. They refused to take on the culture of the Babylonian people. They wanted to preserve what they were given by the prophets, all the way down, starting with Abraham and Moses, all the way down to that man Jesus, who was a prophet out of that culture. And so the Jews were taken into captivity. They were exiled from Judah. They were made slaves in Babylon. Not one time, but 2 times. They were made, forced to work to enrich Babylon. And they were not freed until the Persians overthrew Babylon. And the ruler of Persia, Cyrus, allow them to return back to Palestine and establish what is now known as Jerusalem. Bear with me. I want us to think about how prophecy is unfolding and how history is best able to reward our research, and how we have been sent a man has been sent to us, a rebellious house, a man who is stepping out of history and into time and letting us know how time will unfold and what our destiny is to be in the unfolding of time. This man is giving us not only warning, but he's giving us prophecy or prediction. And so the Babylonians were the extension of an ancient culture, a very ancient culture. But the captivity of the Jewish people was a stepping stone in the fulfillment of a prophecy that was given long before Nebuchadnezzar took Jewish people captive. Back there in the book of Genesis, we have the narrative in the 15th chapter that goes like this. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, talking about the man we know as Abraham. And lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said, God talking unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years, and also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. Well, the captivity of Jewish people in Babylon is the first glimpse that prophecy was going to be fulfilled that was given to Abraham so long ago. And what we need to understand, family, is that we are the people of God. We are Beit Israel. We are that chosen house. And all of history has been working its way, unfolding itself, making its way to this day and this time with a people who would fit perfectly into the picture given to the prophets of how God would prepare a people to bring in a whole new world and a whole new way and abolish the time of tyrants and slave masters and slave makers. Black people here in America, we are in America, which is the fulfillment of Roman and Babylonian civilization. America is the culmination of Roman and Babylonian systems of government, education, economy, art, culture, philosophy, and religion. America is the modern Rome. America is the modern Babylon. As Babylon was the apex of the Assyrian culture, the Anunnaki culture, the Igigi and Sumerian cultures. Babylon was the culmination of all those ancient cultures, wherein Babylon is known to have established writing as a norm, making a transition in that part of the world at that time from oral tradition to writing, to development of written mathematics, to the development of high architecture, and the development of written law. All of these things can be seen clearly in the legacy of the man Hammurabi, the great ruler of Babylon. But here we are, black people in America. Here we are, Christians. Here we are, Muslims. Here we are, those of us who consider ourselves Hebrew Israelites, black Israelites, etc. Many of us coming to realize that the prophecies of the scripture are talking about black people in America, but we've disengaged from the man who made this proclamation to us so many decades ago, when all of our religious scholars were busy looking back 2,000 years ago, busy putting accolade and giving recognition to Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jewish people as the choice of God. It was a little black man from Georgia who began to break open the seals of scripture and let it be known that black people in America is the fulfillment of all of the prophecies, not those people over there who are usurpers of the land of Judah. Think over these things. Now we talk about black people being the real Israel, but we don't want to give credit to the man and the men who stood up and made this revelation when nobody else was making that revelation. And so the book of Lamentations says Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction, and because of great servitude she dwelleth among the heathen. She findeth no rest. All her persecutors overtook her between the straits. What people fulfill this more perfectly than black people in America? There has never been rest for black people on the continent of Africa anywhere since the rise of the European nations. She is there now causing trouble. She is there now using her espionage, her secret services, her dollar, her wealth, her francs, her monetary system to exploit and oppress black people. Black people have no rest. If you go to Haiti now, there's tremendous suffering and pain and turmoil and anger. And everywhere you go, where the people have been colonized by the likes of France and Britain and America and Rome and all of the European nations, our people are suffering and have no rest. Nobody fulfills this book like the black man and woman on the planet today, and nobody out of those black people fulfill it more than the black man and woman in America and the Western Hemisphere. And so the psalmist was heard saying, by the rivers of Babylon there we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof, for there they that carried us away captive required of us a song. Can't you hear Jay-Z and Kanye giving us a song? And they wasted us and required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. And that's what we're doing. We're singing and dancing, still engaged in gross buffoonery before the world. We've stripped ourselves naked in any type of way we can come up with for fame, for fortune, not knowing that we are the laughing stock of the world. And we've become so prolific that now you look at the continent of Africa where the culture runs so deep. You see the young Africans now, they want to strip themselves naked imitating and mimicking what has gone on here in the United States of America. But the psalmist asks the question, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget my cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Happy shall I be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall I be that taketh and dashes thy little ones against the stones. Here a man is made to cry out. Oh, how can we sing the song, the Lord's song, in a strange land? We can't sing the Lord's song because we've been robbed of the knowledge of who we are. And so we see another people as God's choice in the midst of our suffering. It's taken us so long to start to understand that we are the choice of God, not some other people. It is the black man and woman of America and the Western Hemisphere. And so we are yet not singing the Lord's song. We're still singing the song of the oppressor. And he uses our song to make fools of us. He uses our song to dumb us down. He uses our song to exploit us and make a fool out of us before the world. He has stripped us and stripped our ancestors of any gains we've made fighting for our freedom, our liberation, fighting for freedom, justice, and equality. Today, our children don't know nothing of that. They want the freedom to have their behind out, their breast out, their vagina out. They want the freedom for men to look like women and act like women and style themselves like women. The freedom for women to try to be a man, look like a man, have the energy of a man. We are a people tossed to and fro, up and down and inside out. We're not singing the songs of Zion. We're singing the songs of Satan. We're black in Babylon. Babylon was a culture, a slave-making culture, a warring culture. Everywhere Babylon went, she made war with the people. She took her arms and her munitions and her armies, and she conquered land after land after land. She put to the sword and to death everybody and everything standing in her way. And she made slaves of those cultures in ancient Babylon. And she used the slavery of her conquests to make Babylon a wealthy place. So when you look at the West today, when you look at Europe today, what is the basis of a wealth? When Europe, most of Europe is a hilly and rocky and desolate place that has a hard time to grow food, that has a hard time to find resource, mineral resource. How are the Europeans so wealthy? It is from their conquering of other cultures, the enslavement of other cultures, the exploitation of other cultures. She is wealthy like ancient Babylon. But the psalmist, oh, did he know? Could he see this far to know that Babylon wasn't finished in its time? We're living today, dear family, at the apex of the ideal of Babylonian culture. And while the Babylonians themselves were black people, dark people, They were slave makers of their brothers and sisters, neighbors to themselves. And so the usurper king, Nebuchadnezzar, he started first taking the elite Jews and forcing them to use their intelligence, their education, their gift, their art, their craft to continue to keep Babylon wealthy and to help Babylon oppress the other poor Jews in Judah. And so it is today, our educated, our elite Black people are so disconnected from their moral and spiritual obligation to honor our elders and ancestors and the lives they lost and the lives they led in misery and suffering. We believe that the struggle is over. And so we practice a form of worship that does not involve radical challenge of the authority of the world. We're happy to have the flag in our pulpit. And so we sing and we teach and we preach about a milquetoast Jesus. We don't really even know the truth of that man, Jesus of 2,000 years ago. We are preaching a false Jesus to the people. And so the people have been spaded and neutered, gendered through religion. And this is why we cannot defeat Satan in Satan's plans, because our minds have been neutered, gendered through a religious process that has made us weak, made us fall in love with the freedom to be a freak, with the freedom to party, to drink, to get drunk, to eat fine meat, to have gourmet meals, and to become a expert socialite where everything is about an event and a party and having a good time, and we don't have time for no struggle. It means that I have succeeded and God is blessing me because I've got the money for the concert, I've got the money for the show, I've got the money for the trip, I've got the money for the vacation, I've got the money for the top of the line car, the top of the line clothes, the top of the line shoes, perfume, and cologne. We have become like Babylonians, gluttonous. We have become niggas in Paris. Think over these things. And so as I move to conclude this message to you, dear family, the book of Revelation, a man is made to say, these words. And after these things, I saw another angel come from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted by his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, as and is become the habitation of devils, and a hole of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Where do we live, dear family? Don't we live in a land full of murder, full of hatred of every form? What form of hatred, what form of evil is not practiced in the United States of America? What form of evil can you not find here among Black people? So the man says, for all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Ain't that what we're looking for? To grab a bag, to tie down a bag so I can enjoy the delicacies of society. And if I can enjoy the delicacies of society, as long as I pump my fist every now and then and offer a few slogans in support of the struggle of our people, I'm going to go on enjoying my delicacies because I have become like my former master. I wax rich in the abundance that is found in serving the culture of modern Babylon. And so this same man says, I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works in the cup which she hath filled with her double. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she says in her heart, I sit a queen, and I am no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. Think over these words of the prophet. Wrath is coming. It is an inevitable law in the universe that all nations have had to come face to face with. Ancient Babylon, ancient Assyria, ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, all the European nations have stepped into a day of wrath because the earth is crying out. The earth is trying to eject her punisher. Nature is turning against the wealth of the current world order. She cannot print enough money to cope with what nature is bringing on the planet. Oh, to be black in Babylon, a land of slavery, a land of suffering, a land of tremendous wealth and great glory and honor for her wealth and her conquest, but a wicked, hedonistic, freakish, out of control, gluttonous, a culture that is only concerned with satisfying their flesh. And so I'm saying to you, my people, we need to look at ourselves. Why are you so fascinated with your own flesh? Yes, you're beautiful. Yes, your form is magnificent. But don't you understand that when you love your form and yourself, your flesh, more than you love God, when you praise your flesh and your form and your beauty in a way that is not pleasing to God, then your flesh, your form, your beauty becomes anathema to God. It is rejected by God. And so, yes, you can mesmerize men men who are fascinated with flesh. Yes, you can mesmerize women who are fascinated with flesh, but flesh is not the Spirit of God. And if you're losing yourself to your own image, then with your education, with your art, with your intelligence, with your abilities, you are lost to God. And so God has raised a man. He's raised a man to cry out to us. Even though we will not hear, he raises a man to cry out to us in a way, in a manner, in a style, and in a language that we can't say that we didn't hear, even though we choose not to hear. And so as I move to conclude this message, I refuse to let that man cry out alone. Because that man cried out to me. And in his cry was life for me. And in his cry is life for you. And so God raises men and women to help lift the light for us, that when we fall in darkness, we can never see or say that a light was not offered to us to see our way to be more pleasing to Almighty God, that we might avoid the displeasure of a living God who is able to interject into our affairs in ways that we cannot see. That can bring us great joy. And out of that joy, we can be under the wrath of God, because he has allowed us access to all of the things that our flesh desires, and we will go blind believing that God is blessing us when he's really cursing us due to our wealth and our extravagance. And likewise, he can straighten our means for us and cause us tremendous discomfort all along while he's preparing us and purifying us to do a mighty work. Black in Babylon. Do you know that you're in Babylon? Do you know that the enemy of God has worked for so long to produce a culture like the one we live in now? Don't you know you're living in the apex, the zenith of Satan's work? He has perfected his system, and the United States of America is the crown jewel of the perfection of Satan's system of death. But in the midst of Satan, there's a people that God is after that seem to be running from God. And so we simply want to invite you to run toward God. Come out of Babylon in your mind, in your attitude, in your belief system, in what you believe about yourself and your people. Come out of Babylon in the way that you pursue money and what you use how you use the money that you gain. Come out of Babylon with your intelligence, with your skill sets, with your talent, with your ability. Come out of Babylon. That God might allow your name to live in his kingdom that is right at hand on this planet. Cannot a fool see that a mighty change is happening in everything in nature? Is making a statement that change is coming. While you are dining in Paris, in Rome, in Greece, in Russia, while you are jet setting, while you are on the Magnificent Mile, while you are uh, 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 on Rodeo Drive, while you are in all of these places enjoying yourself, don't you see that a universal change is coming? So I pray that our message today will help you understand that you are part, Black people, of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And God is trying to wrestle us from the clutches of Babylon. May God bless you with the light of understanding. If you bore with me, I hope that you found some level of inspiration, motivation, illumination, and spiritual activation. I thank you for giving me your attention. And I close by thanking my mentor, my primary teacher, for giving his life to a people who are considered blind, deaf, and dumb. I leave you as I started with the greeting words of peace, saying, Shalom Alaikum, Assalam Alaikum. Simply put, peace be unto you, and may God bless you with the light of understanding and the courage to live better and come closer to the God who is after you to establish you into the future of his kingdom. Peace and love, peace and blessings, dear family, until we meet again.